all the executive councilors and the governor to take at least one meeting on the road. And it's really one of the best, most unique ways for the public to come in and really see government in action, checks and balances in action. It's the only place in the country where you have a process like this with an executive council, where all the commissioners and the attorney general and all the councilors and basically the entire executive branch gets together in public, and the public can sit shoulder to shoulder with the commissioner. I'm going to pick a commissioner here somewhere. They're all ducking. Commissioner of Safety is here somewhere, or Environmental Services, or Education, or whatever it might be. DOIT, Information Services. So there's just an opportunity to really engage at a one-on-one level. And that's exciting in a very public way. So we get to share that with the communities, get kids involved and all that. So today we were honored. We always have a breakfast meeting when we do this. It was wonderful to be over at the Keene Public Library. That place is awesome. Really, you have one of the most spectacular libraries in not just all of New Hampshire, but really all of New England. And it really is a gem that everybody in this community should be extremely proud of. We got a wonderful tour. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Mayor George Hansel, who I think is with us somewhere. Mayor, are you with us? Yes, Mayor Hansel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor and Council, for joining us in Keene today. This is really such a thrill, especially after the year we've had. And I especially want to thank Councilor Warrington and everyone who helped her put all of this together. It's really turned into a great day. And you couldn't have picked two better examples to hold your meetings and the different events today. So our Keene Public Library, which we all came from, just a fantastic community-based project. And right here, the showroom, right next to the Colonial Theater, and all of it is part of our Colonial Performing Arts Center. I just have to highlight, along with all of the staff members and professionals that made these projects happen, it was an entire community that stepped up and just said, we need this here, and we are going to put our dollars down to make it happen. We are going to find the volunteers needed to make it happen, and we just did it. And I think that speaks really highly of the people here in the Monadnock region, but also our ability to collaborate and get things done, which is something that's been impressed upon me since I've lived here. And I'm very proud to be mayor of this city and a representative of this region. Just to highlight the Colonial Theater, this is the economic engine of downtown Keene. On theater nights, when different performances are going on, the restaurants are full, hundreds of people are walking around downtown. This is our economic engine. And a couple of years ago, I think 2016, we did a pretty comprehensive study about how much the arts actually contribute to our greater economy. And it was, I believe, $14 million. That's a lot of meals. That's a lot of butts in the seats for restaurant owners. That's a lot of t-shirts sold at East Tees. And so we're just so thankful and grateful for the talented people that make the arts happen. And I'm especially excited about this project here at the Colonial Theater. This sets us up for the next 100 years. And I know Alec's going to talk, Alec Doyle, the executive director, is going to talk about that in more detail. But I'm thrilled that you get to participate in celebrating the opening of this venue, and hopefully you come back to enjoy downtown Keene and come to a performance at the larger venue once it's open next year. But thank you.
Great, thanks, Rick. And to talk a little bit more about this amazing venue, come on, Al. We got Alec Doyle, who's the executive director. Thank you.
That's Theater 101. Don't jump your cue, right? Yeah, exactly. I wanted to, first of all, congratulate the Governor and Executive Council. You guys have a pretty popular show here because we don't usually have a full house at a 10 a.m. matinee. And this is really outstanding. And I want to thank people who came today to participate in this. Before we get started, I think it's important that, representing the arts community, that we give a big shout out to Governor Sununu. This state is very, very fortunate that he has, since day one, when the pandemic hit, has been supportive of the arts and the arts community. And we would not be here today able to even be operating in partial capacity without the support we received over the last 18 months. So I want to thank him publicly for that. Thank you. 15 months ago, we made the bold, well, some may call it something else, we call it bold, decision to take a 2-year, 2-phase project and condense it into 1 year. The 2 phases were originally this building and the reconstruction of this building and renovation and the main stage and back of house over to my right. This decision was made by leadership at the Colonial, and we decided to compress 2 years into 1 year, and we have had great success to date. It has not been without its challenges, but where you sit now in showroom is one of the first important pieces of the strategic plan that we've been enacting for 3 years now. This space for emerging artists, for local artists, is going to complement what we do on our main stage with large touring companies and provide a springboard for lots and lots of emerging artists moving into the future. So we're really happy to have this as part of our, what we call our campus now. The theater next door is undergoing major improvements right now, which will be completed in March of 22. That is a complete redo of the back of house and a complete redo of front of house. It's going to change the entire face of downtown Keene, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of people's experience with the arts. Not only what we bring in, but also those arts organizations that we have to work with locally. And we're really looking forward to that opening up as soon as possible, obviously. In spite of a few delays due to the pandemic, and there were a few along the way here, we have managed to actually reach about 73% of our campaign goal already. Our campaign goal is $12.5 million. That is the largest independent campaign ever launched in the city of Keene. So, as George said, we're really pleased and happy that the city has embraced this, and we look forward to moving forward. We have work to do. We have a lot of work to do, but we look forward to keeping this moving forward and to gaining some ground on that campaign in the next 6 months or so. George alluded to this. When this campus is completed, we will virtually double our impact. The Colonial campus will double its impact on the community, well in excess of about $4 million per year that we pump into the community here when we're operating. So we're really looking forward to having this venue open, which it's ramping up with events like this, and then in the month of August we're going to be adding more events. More events will be kept getting up to speed. Pretty soon it'll be full by the time we hit September, okay? Barring any resurgence, we'll call it. So hopefully we won't deal with that. Again, thank you for being here and for supporting the arts, and enjoy the show.
I just can't thank enough. I'm always looking forward, right? I'm never looking to go back to the pandemic, but I really have to say, not just Alec, but the entire community across the state, the playhouses, the theaters, the open live venues. We provided some money that most other states did, but without them, without the staff also, your staff is really incredible. Your team that you have here, the volunteers that kept these places going through some really tough times. None of it would have happened. It was an absolute team effort, and I can't thank them enough. And other states came to us, and when we explained how we did, what we did to help a lot of the public venues and spaces like this, again, it was because a lot of them couldn't do it because they didn't have guys like this. They didn't have individuals that were willing to come in and kind of go the extra mile. Not that they didn't care, but they just weren't set up the right way. And I got to be honest, you guys just rocked it. You really did. And so on behalf of everybody in the state, we can't thank you all enough. Although I love this stage. I feel like it's like a one-man show when this is all done or something. This is awesome. Yeah, I know. Right? Yeah, exactly. With that, I'm going to kick it over to really our host this morning. The reason we are here is Councilor Warmington, who represents this entire Executive Council of District 2, one of the most unique districts temporarily. I think it's going to hopefully get fixed next year. But we're one of the most unique districts in all of the country, from border to border, right? Maine to Vermont, right across the state. It's one of the hardest districts to travel. It really is, and I think she does actually a very, very good job getting out to each of the communities, finding what's going on in each of them, and talking to individuals one-on-one. And it was her idea to host us here in Keene this morning. So with that, I will kick it over to Councilor Warmington. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Keene, for having us. Thank you, Mayor George Hansel, for your hospitality, and for Alec Doyle Showroom for welcoming us here. And I just want to say, for those of you who didn't attend the breakfast meeting, it was wonderful and hosted by Marty Fisk at the Keene Public Library. It is a real gem and a library for the future. So we are very, very happy to be here, and we have some exciting things for you this morning. I need to say thank you to Commissioner Stewart. I just see you there, for all the help that you gave me and your staff for arranging everything. So thank you. So we are going to have Sheriff Eli Rivera lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We are going to have for musical entertainment, Jose Lescano and Alyssa Becker, who are here, who are going to play Beethoven's Adagio and on guitar. And we have a very special presenter here today, a finalist in the New Hampshire Poetry Out Loud program. He's a sophomore at Kearsarge Regional High School, and his name is Oliver Andrews, and he is here today with his parents, and we'll be hearing from him. I want to thank everybody who has come here today. I think that there's a lot of people here supporting our proclamations. We have several proclamations to give out today, including honorees Melinda Mindy Cambiar of Keene, and Cameron Tees of Keene, and also the Little Indonesia Cultural Center of Somersworth, because as you just heard the governor say, my district extends from border to border, and we have proclamations to give out from Somersworth as well. I want to introduce the council members here today. Representing Council District 1 is Councilor Joe Kenny. Representing District 3 is Councilor Janet Stevens. We have, of course, the governor. Representing Council 4 is Councilor Ted Gatsis, and Councilor David Wheeler represents District 5. I'm not going to take up your time today. I want to thank the Keene for having us, and hope you all appreciate the wonderful music that we're going to hear today, and the other presentations. One thing I want to ask, though, is that we do have this Poetry Out Loud program here in New Hampshire, which is really remarkable, and not very many people know much about it. And so I wanted to introduce Jenny Luby, who's with our Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, to come forward and please talk with us a little bit about our Poetry Out Loud program.
Sure. Poetry Out Loud is a program that is directed by the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts, which is a division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And this program is actually a national poetry recitation competition that is sponsored by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation. Students from all over the country participate in every single state. And in New Hampshire, during a regular year, not like the year we've had, we have close to 10,000 high school students participating in this competition. And it starts on the school level, and then moves to regional finals, and then to a final event where the regional finalists compete. And it is truly, truly extraordinary. Students choose poems from a curriculum put together by the Arts Endowment and the Poetry Foundation. They memorize those poems, and then they recite them. And so today, Oliver is going to recite one of the poems that he performed in this year's finals. Thanks, everybody.
I think now I'll call forward Sheriff Eli Rivera to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which
you very much. I will be reciting the poem, Trying to Praise the Mutilated World by Adam Zagajewski. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn, and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world, and the gray feather a thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns. Thank you very much.
Where's all of you? Come on up here. What I'd like to do, this is a little tight quarters. That was terrific. Thank you. Very, very impressed. That was really great. Can we do a photo? Sure. Great. And then what I'm going to ask, we're going to have a couple of accommodations, and if the counselors, maybe if you guys want to come down, that way we won't be getting up and down, and we can do it down here. That way, I don't know. Here, come on over. Come on over. Where? Go ahead. Right. Oh, is it? Hi, how are you? Are you Dad? Yep. Oh, nice to see you. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay. All right, great. Yeah, Councilwoman can hang up here. So, as the councilor mentioned, we have a variety of folks. And it's one of those things where in New Hampshire, like, you could just spend all day recognizing the amazing work that individuals do for their communities around the state. We are a true state of service. It isn't about government top-down. It's really about connecting with community. And so many individuals step up on a volunteer basis to make it happen. And you never know kind of who's doing what and what organizations might be part of your community. I always encourage folks to really reach out, spread your wings a little, see what is around the next corner in terms of some of these organizations and opportunities. You just never know. I mean, I'm always amazed. We have about 10,000 nonprofits in this state. So my guess is there's a whole bunch of them doing some great stuff in your neighborhood that you're not even aware of. So a lot of these things get started, not just in the nonprofit world, but just service. We all have a path, right? We all have something to give. You got to find that skill set. Maybe it's being a teacher. Maybe it's donating time at the food bank. Maybe it's running for office. Who knows what it might be. Some of these individuals have just gone above and beyond, and we like to recognize at least some of them as we tour the state. So the first individual is someone who has been in the Monadnock region for quite some time, and with I'm going to let Cameron tell the story a little bit. But is Cameron Tees here? Where? Oh, you're up there. Wow. Okay. Are you interested in coming down? No, I just want to you come on down if you can. Great. So while Cameron is coming down, I will embarrass him a little bit and tell you Cameron is an individual that went through something traumatic with himself and his family and said, I just want to help others. You never know what can happen to you, but when someone can take that difficult time and turn it into a strength and an opportunity for the rest of the community, it's just absolutely something to champion. So Cameron, come on up. Good to see you. Nice to see you. So I'm just going to give a little bit of the resume. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about some of the things happening in the community. But you've worked with Granite United Way. Right.
Monadnock United Way.
Monadnock United Way. Yep. Oh, good. Oh, we got some other folks up here. Yep. Now, you went through something, was it your son that had a traumatic brain injury? Yeah.
Yes.
And then you opened up your house for other folks with disabilities.
because of Monadnock Developmental Services allowing us to bring Sean home from Boston and spend the last 12 years at his own home on Grant Street. Subsequently, other people with disabilities live there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really is amazing. So we have a commendation. Bear with it, it's a little formal, but we tried to, you got quite a resume, so we tried to pack it in a little bit. Whereas Cameron Tees moved to the Monadnock region in the 1980s, quickly became part of the community, serving in the Westmoreland School District and later the Harrisville School District. And whereas after leaving the private sector, he served as the Director of Resource Development for his local United Way from 2014 to 2017, went on to serve as the Executive Director of the Keene Senior Center until this year. Wow,
Till June.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Whereas in 1989, Cameron's late son, Sean, suffered a traumatic brain injury due to a car accident, and he knew he could turn to his community for support. Cameron worked tirelessly to create a program so Sean could receive services from a community of caregivers in the comfort of his own home. And whereas today, the house continues to operate as a home for people with disabilities and is a reflection of Cameron's devotion to his son and desire to give back to the community that supported him. And whereas he's a pillar of his community and the Greater Keene Chamber of Commerce has recognized Cameron's efforts with their Community Service Award. Now therefore I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend Cameron Tees for his service to the Keene community and wish him all the best. Thank you. Get in real tight as best we can. Have to use like the pano filter. Great. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, this is it. Mindy, where is, I know Mindy's here somewhere. Mindy can't be here. So a lot of folks around here know the community kitchen. And Mindy was a big part of starting the community kitchen back in 1982. Like it was yesterday, right? Like it was yesterday. Oh, it feels like yesterday. And it has been an absolute pillar and staple of this community for quite some time. And then really going on and doing a whole bunch of other amazing stuff. So I don't want to like put you on the spot, but from starting the community kitchen back in 1983, or 1982.
Well, we started the project.
The project in 82, I think the doors opened in 83. I was 9 years old.
I was not.
9 years old. And the 100 Night Shelter. We work with the 100 Night. Do you want to talk a little bit? Oh, just talk about the community kitchen, just in terms of what it does, and for those who might not know. And
Community kitchen. So when we started the project to open the community kitchen, we were told that there were only 7 hungry people in Keene, and that they got a voucher once a week from the Salvation Army to eat at the diner. Well, I'm not sure that solves the problem.
Right.
We got the support of St. James Episcopal Church right off the bat. They were wonderful. They opened up the dining room under crop space at the church for 2 meals a week. Their parishioners joined the board of directors. They got on board, and then the other churches started, and then the community support just swelled. It was all about no us versus them. It was all about eating together as a community.
And did you ever imagine that it was going up?
I had
38,
serious
almost 40 years
thoughts
ago.
that it wouldn't continue after I left, but I am so pleased. Phoebe has taken over and done just a wonderful job with it.
That's awesome.
And I think her accent convinces volunteers that they should continue with that.
Say no. Say no to that. So commendation recognizing Mindy Cambiar, where as a student at Keene, you were a student at the time at Keene State when you came up with this? This is awesome. Okay.
With a 4-year-old.
As a student with, wow, okay. I want to give you a hug, but I don't know if that's appropriate, so I won't. Whereas a student at Keene State College, Mindy Cambier and her fellow students work with local organizations to open the community kitchen, and actually opening the doors in 1983. And whereas the community kitchen marks 38 years of service this year, providing nutritious food, advocacy, and education for people in need throughout the Monadnock region, Mindy served as the executive director for more than 20 years. And whereas Mindy currently serves as the executive director of the 100-Night Shelter, which provides safe, supportive, and stable housing for displaced or homeless people. And whereas, even in the face of her own challenges, Mindy is focused on serving others and ensuring that everyone in the community is treated with dignity and respect. And whereas Mindy has provided decades of service to vulnerable populations in the community, and her efforts have created infrastructure that will allow these services to continue for years to come. Now, therefore, I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend Mindy Cambier for her service to the Monadnock region and wish her all the best. Congratulations. Thank you again. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Okay, as Councilor Warmington had mentioned, even though we're in Keene, there's a large district, and today we're honoring and recognizing a group that has just done tremendous work within their own community, the Little Indonesia Cultural Center, which is, I think, in Somersworth, technically in Somersworth. It's an incredible group that not just does advocacy and support for their community in Somersworth, but has really become something, I think, even a lot bigger than they had originally imagined, and really, I think, emphasizes and tries to form all these different aspects of cultural diversity and inclusion, and making sure that we really are a fully integrated community throughout the entire state. So even though they're over in Somersworth, we get to honor them today in Keene and recognize those efforts and in the community all across the great state of New Hampshire. So I don't even know, do we have someone here from the community? Oh, hey, man, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
We also have members of the ICC.
Oh, we do? Oh, great.
We have the president of the ICC.
Oh, yeah, come on up.
Don't be shy.
Congratulations. Can you just tell us a little bit about the ICC?
So the ICC, which I'm going to turn it over to Rachel Rao, who is the president here. I'm Dana Hilliard, mayor of the city of Somersworth. It is so great to be in Keene to share some moments here with my mayoral colleague. Somersworth is the smallest city in the state of New Hampshire, 10 square miles. And we boast ourselves on not only our diversity, but being known as the welcoming city in the state of New Hampshire for our commitment to diversity and cultural ethnicity. And out of that 10,000, 1,100 population, we have 2,500 Indonesian members of our community. And about, say, 5 years ago, Rachel Rao and I were having a simple conversation over a cup of coffee and decided how cool it would be to create the first Little Indonesia in the United States of America. And how cool it would be to be in the smallest city in the state of New Hampshire. Rao.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. Thank you, Governor. It is such an honor for us to be here for this opportunity. But yes, so we are so very grateful for the work with the city of Somersworth, with the mayor, and everyone in New Hampshire. I think it's our home. New Hampshire is our home, and you wonder why 17% of population of Somersworth are Indonesian, and in New Hampshire alone is more than 5,000, I think, based from our data 3 years ago. So with this Little Indonesia Cultural Center, after we opened it in two months ago, it has become the hub for the whole community. It has become the hub of resources, and the goal is to build a community, right? The vision is to build a community. When we build a community, we build the economy. Right? When we connect when we do this, we're trying to strengthen the partnership between Indonesia and the United States. So no pressure on us. Having that to be not only the first one in the nation, it is the very first one in the world. So we work with the Indonesian Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and all of the embassy and the consulate based in New York and in D.C. They have told us to just start and work with the mayor, the city, and work with everyone else and be the hub, be the helpers. Now that center is not only the cultural center, the gift shop. We host events every weekend just to kind of attract the community, and we have attracted a lot of communities from Tennessee, Arkansas, California, Philly, New York coming because this place highlights a sense of belonging, sense of place, and sense of pride. So we're very thankful. We look forward to moving from one phase to another. Hopefully after the cultural center, we're moving to the urban park development and having another new thing, the next big thing in Somersworth. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So we do have a commendation recognizing Little Indonesia Cultural Center, whereas the Indonesian Community Connect, the ICC, is committed to bringing communities together and bringing awareness to the importance of cultural diversity and heritage throughout education and festive affairs. And whereas the ICC has worked diligently to create the Little Indonesia Cultural Center, the first of its kind in the nation, and whereas the Indonesian community has a large presence in the Somersworth area and has made many contributions to the Granite State, and the Little Indonesia Cultural Center promotes the importance of inclusivity, community, and a sense of belonging. And whereas it will offer opportunities for connection and provides a place for people to gather and learn about Indonesian culture and art while supporting local businesses. And whereas the Little Indonesia Cultural Center is a true community effort with members of the ICC, volunteers, community leaders, and members of the Indonesian community working together to make the center possible. Now therefore I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend Little Indonesia Cultural Center for their efforts to bring communities together and congratulate the ICC on the opening of the Little Indonesia Cultural Center.
Di sini Om. Baik.
Okay, excellent.
Congratulations. My wife knows all about sugar.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. And they're the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'll get the one from the back
Great.
now.
So, is Steve Belmont? Where's Steve? Come on up. We have folks that have gone. We have this whole pandemic we have been dealing with. How are you? Nice to see you. We've been dealing with over the last 18 months, as everybody knows. It has been life-changing. It has been game-changing. The state of New Hampshire, I can say with a lot of pride, and I think all of our chests puffed out a little bit, we rocked it here in New Hampshire. And we didn't rock it because just on the government side. We did it because there was real community engagement. We had folks stepping up out of their comfort zone saying, what can we do to help? How can we make this whole very terrible and scary process more successful for our communities? And so we are recognizing today New Hampshire's vaccine volunteers that again, just stepped up and said, what can I do to make this happen here in our community? In fact, one of the groups, it's the Monadnock
Greater Monadnock Public Health Network.
The Greater Monadnock Public Health Network. I had to get that name right. They were supposed to be here, but guess what they're doing today? They're running a vaccine clinic, right? So they are out there. Why don't you talk a little bit about the involvement?
Yeah, so I actually work for the Greater Sullivan County Public Health Network, and it is really a 1.5 person team. So it's myself and some other team members who have helped out. I work for Dartmouth. And since the start of COVID, I started on December 28th, and on December 29th, I was at my first COVID clinic after switching from working on an ambulance for 11 years. And so we have run over close to 50 mobile clinics in my area, separate from the fixed site. We vaccinated right around 3,500 people. And it's been a great group of volunteers. We've relied heavily on the Medical Reserve Corps, and I've had just a really solid group of 4 or 5 that have helped at every single clinic that I've been at. I can't thank them enough. I wish they could have been here to be with me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So we're discussing, there's a whole variety of groups across the state. We're finally, now that the pandemic aspect is really there, we're still managing COVID, of course, but we do get to go out and do a little bit of this and start thanking folks. Again, it is an absolute team effort here. Oh, I see Commissioner Shibinette, big part of the team. The bench coach. Let's call it the bench coach. Head coach, bench coach. But there are folks, whether it's the firefighters, the first responders, the National Guard, the volunteers on the vaccine site, the folks that put out the PPE. We could go on all day, and we're going to. We're going to be traveling the state over the next few months and just thanking folks, along with the Executive Council, because so many folks were able to be part of our success. And again, I'm just going to repeat what I said before. Other governors call all the time, and they say, how are you doing this, how are you doing that? And especially on the vaccine, we got it out really, really quick with wonderful customer service. Very, very few, not zero, but very, very few issues in terms of getting people in, calming their anxieties, getting them that vaccine they needed, and allowing it to move forward. And because of individuals like this, and I really mean this sincerely, because it was such a smooth process logistically with the help of the National Guard and folks just having that kind of caring eye, knowing that a couple might be coming in, a lot of anxiety. Gee, I'm here, the Army's, the National Guard is there. It can be a little intimidating, but having that customer service aspect, that caring one-on-one approach right off the bat, and with the help of everybody moving them through the system, sometimes in a matter of 15 minutes, that is one of the reasons, it's one of the secrets for why we were, for a while, #1 in the country in getting the vaccine out. Because people went home and said, oh my God, it was so easy. Oh my God, the people there were so nice, they were so kind. Having that approach is a huge part to giving folks comfort to coming in and getting that vaccine. And again, we're going to keep doing that. Obviously, we want everyone to get vaccinated, and we're going to keep pushing that message. But again, you guys didn't just get it out, but you were a big part of the reason why we were so successful as an entire state. So, a commendation recognizing New Hampshire's vaccine volunteers. Whereas throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, volunteers from across the Granite State stepped up to help their neighbors in any way they could. And whereas volunteers work diligently to set up vaccine sites, coordinate schedules to ensure round-the-clock coverage, and administer thousands of vaccines to people in their local communities. And whereas as New Hampshire expanded vaccine eligibility, these volunteers worked hard to keep lines moving and navigate any challenges, and did so with kindness and professionalism. And whereas these vaccine sites expanded vaccine accessibility to all regions of the Granite State and provided citizens the opportunity to receive vaccines in a location most convenient to them. And whereas community health centers and their volunteers have been vital in protecting Granite Staters and aiding the state in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, therefore, I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend New Hampshire's vaccine volunteers for their dedication and hard work, and thank them for all their
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. Thanks again. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
So now we're going to hear from our musical presentation. Jose Lozano is with an instructor with Keene State College, and he is a 2-time Grammy nominee for and also his a student at Keene State College, Alyssa Beckner, and we look forward to hearing from you.
sorry. Who am I looking at?
Yeah. Well, let's look here first. And then we'll look up a little.
That's great.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, that was terrific. Always gets us off in the right mood, right? For good government. So with that, we will begin our regular meeting. To call this meeting to order of the Governor and Executive Council. I'll first ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the July 14th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion or changes to the meeting minutes requested? Council Warrington?
I just note that the last line ends with just a cut-off sentence. The next regular Governor Executive Council meeting is scheduled for August 4th at, and it's just a blank there. Fill in the blank.
Great, for the location. Oh, here.
Yes.
Any other questions or changes to the meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes with the amendment provided by Councilor Warmington, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, the meeting minutes are approved. Next, from the Office of the Secretary of State. How you doing, Karen? All right. We do have our civil commissions. Could I please have a motion to confirm the list of civil commissions?
So moved.
All in favor of the list of civil commissions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The list of civil commissions is approved. Are there any new nominations to place on the list this week? Okay, hearing none, the matter of civil commissions is concluded. We have 3 resignations from our board to accept today. From the Board of Dental Examiners, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Ellen Legg of Portsmouth?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Lake's resignation is accepted. From the Current Use Advisory Board, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Andrea Louie of Nottingham?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Louie's resignation is accepted. From the New Hampshire Health and Education Facilities Authority, can I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Alan Moses of Portsmouth?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Mr. Moses' resignation is accepted, and that concludes resignations. We have a few folks to confirm this week. To begin, I'd ask for a motion to confirm Leo Urban of Manchester to the Board of Landscape Architects.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Urban's confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Brianna Cameron of Hooksett to the Board of Licensure for Interpreters of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brianna is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Samantha O'Neill of Merrimack, Board of Nursing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Samantha is confirmed. Could I now please have a motion to confirm Christopher Elms Jr. of Concord as the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Energy?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Shown in the no. Chris Elms is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Andre Briere of Oak Brook, Illinois as the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Transportation?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Andre is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Thomas Franz of Andover as the Director of the Division of Regulatory Support for the Department of Energy.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Franz is confirmed. Could I now please have a motion to confirm Mark LaChance of Gilmanton to the Fish and Game Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark is confirmed. And now could I please have a motion to confirm Stephen Howell of North Woodstock to the Passenger Tramway Safety Board?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Stephen is confirmed, and that concludes our confirmations for today. I do have a few nominations to simply read into the record. As the Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Environmental Services, I nominate Mark Sanborn of Laconia. To the Board of Acupuncture Licensing, I nominate Amy Goldstein of Concord. To the Board of Dental Examiners, I nominate Virginia Moore of Goffstown. To the Board of Nursing, I nominate Jody Menard of Hopkinton. To the Boxing and Wrestling Commission, I nominate Kimberly McBride of Wyndham. As a Justice to the New Hampshire Circuit Court, I nominate Christina Casa of Portsmouth. Also as a Justice to the New Hampshire Circuit Court, I nominate Kevin Rosseo of Hudson. To the Lakes Management Advisory Committee, I nominate David Packard of Goffstown. To the Lottery Commission, I nominate Earl Pierce of Concord. To the Nashua Police Commission, I nominate Nicholas Dahl of Nashua. To the New Hampshire Veterans Home Board of Managers, I nominate Robert Blades of Goffstown. And to the New Hampshire Retirement System Board of Trustees, I nominate Gerardo Martins of Footsett. And that concludes the nominations. Great. So moving on, we have our consent calendar agenda. Could I begin by asking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there any discussion or request to remove any of the items from the consent calendar for further discussion? Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Governor. 2C, please.
Item 2C, thank you. Any other items to remove for further discussion? Okay. All in favor of adopting the consent calendar agenda with the exception of item 2C, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That part of the consent calendar is approved. Could I now have a motion to adopt consent calendar agenda item 2C?
Second.
And discussion. This is from the New Hampshire Veterans Home. I thought the commandant might be here.
She's coming up.
Morning, commandant. How are you?
A little short, sorry, Governor.
Trust me, you carry a very big presence
I
when you
can't
walk
see him
in.
at all.
Good to see you.
For the record, my name is Margaret LeBruck. I'm the Commandant of the New Hampshire Veterans Home.
Morning, Commandant.
Morning,
Councilor
sir.
Kenny, I had a question for you. We're going to be receiving $32,000 from Orion Entrance Control Incorporated as a gift to the Soldiers Home, which we thank them for that. But I'm just wondering, was that part of our capital plan outlay, or was this simply a private group coming to the Soldiers Home saying that we want to contribute? And I guess it's a kiosk or a UV gateway.
Sure. I was contacted by the company. One of our residents who had lived there for quite many years, they knew of him. In fact, his son-in-law had worked with him at Orion, and so they wanted to, in his honor, donate this. It's a threshold, so as you enter into our our reception area, you have your temperature taken, and then you can walk through this gateway that has UV light that will actually zap any contaminants that happen to be around you, to include the COVID-19 variant.
Wow, outstanding.
So we were very, very happy to receive this gift.
Okay. Congratulate that company, and I love that veteran. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of consent calendar agenda item 2C, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? the items approved. That actually concludes the consent calendar for us. All the items are approved. So we have our regular agenda. I would begin by asking for a motion to adopt agenda item 6 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Medicaid Services.
So moved.
Any discussion on item 6? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6 is approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 7 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Economic and Housing Stability.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. I'd ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 8 and 9 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Long-Term Supports and Services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councillor Stevens.
Governor.
Good morning, Commissioner Schiavone.
Commissioner, in regards to the Delta variant, are we starting to take enhanced measures with our long-term care facilities? We have one active case in Laconia at this time. Any thoughts, any comments on how we're going to approach this?
So the long-term care facilities in the state still fall under the guidelines from CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is the federal government. They're still required, depending on their transmission levels, to do regular testing in their facilities. And what we've seen in the last month or so is an occasional positive come back, mostly in staff, but occasionally in a resident. When that happens, we go back to every other week testing for everybody that's in the building. I think that everybody is taking the right precautions. It really is a balance between creating a safe environment but creating a robust quality of life for the residents, because I don't think we ever want to get back to a point where we're restricting visitation across the long-term care facilities in our state. So we're seeing a little bit, but nothing substantial at all in the long-term care facilities.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Governor. Commissioner, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. Thank you.
That's great. So I have a question on item number 9. And more, if you could kind of outlay kind of what happened with the behavioral health long-term care bed capacity issue, and also the state Supreme Court ruling, and how that kind of forced us into a situation where we had to look for more bed capacity.
Sure. So with the ruling that requires the state to ensure a hearing within 72 hours, we very quickly had to put things in place to take that wait list down to 0 for the most part. Even when you see numbers reported day to day, the average wait time on our wait list for ER boarding is less than a day. At some point, we're going to have to define what ER boarding is, because it's not days anymore. It's to the point where it's hours. When that happened, we had several dozen residents between J Unit, which is our geriatric psychiatric unit at New Hampshire Hospital, and in Glencliff, that had referrals out to different nursing homes for a variety of reasons. Maybe to move closer to a family because they wanted to be in a more integrated setting with their peers, or because they didn't need New Hampshire Hospital anymore, that level of care. When the Doe decision came down, I worked with the governor's office, long-term care, the facilities, to say, what type of incentive could we offer for you to really take a chance on some of these patients that have been waiting for, at points, years for a long-term care bed. Their census had been down, their occupancy level had been down due to COVID. So we worked out an incentive program that they would admit patients from our geriatric unit and Glencliff that had already had referrals out to long-term care, and it really worked. We've authorized 37 people to go, and I think it's about 27 have left so far, and that is a win-win for everybody, because It opens up bed capacity at New Hampshire Hospital, and it also puts those patients, those residents, in a more integrated, less restrictive environment. They're now living in a nursing home with people their own age that don't have mental illness. They get to go out on bus trips and go to the beach and all of those wonderful things that long-term care does for our residents. So it was a win-win all the way around for everybody.
So I have a question here. We have a couple of those long care facilities that are out of state. I see one is Genesis Administrative Services, Kent Square, Pennsylvania. And then we have another one, Sonia Senior Living, Linfield, Massachusetts. Can you explain why we pushed it out into other states?
The residents didn't go to other states. Those are the corporate offices of the facilities. So the Pennsylvania corporate office is Genesis. Genesis owns 31 buildings in the state of New Hampshire. So although that's who we contracted with the corporate office, those residents are still in New Hampshire, in New Hampshire nursing homes.
Okay. Just a little asterisk next time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Further discussion, Councilor Wong?
Commissioner, thank you for your work on reducing the wait list. Very important, and I looked yesterday, and numbers are continuing to be decreased. I'm just wondering, you've talked before about having both front door and back door options. This one's clearly being used as a back door right now. Is there any anticipation that these beds would be used as a front door option? This is truly back door.
The incentive beds for long-term care, probably not. Most of the residents that are flowing through New Hampshire Hospital and Glencliff to long-term care needed a period of stabilization in an acute facility. They were acutely ill at some point in their illness, and through weeks, months, or years, they stabilized at either New Hampshire Hospital or Glencliff, or sometimes both. There are many front door options coming. You approved mobile crisis dollars in the last couple of meetings. You will see CTI pilot programs rolling out January 1 with 4 different teams, and then July 1 next year with all 10 areas represented. The system of care for children, you've seen dollars, and there's dollars on this agenda and past agendas around children's system of care, and DRF beds at different community hospitals. You will see probably 10 to 12 of those in the next year. Additional beds for acute stays, short-term beds. So I think that over the last 12 to 18 months and the next 12 to 18 months, you've seen investment in both the back door and the front door of the problem.
So with respect to these nursing home facilities that are now taking patients, that kinds of patients they may not have managed in the past. The staff may not be accustomed to managing milieu. They may not be accustomed to handling de-escalation, restraints, psychotropic medication. Is the department increasing its survey activity of these nursing homes now that we're contracting with them?
So a couple of things that we've done. We've set up a consultation service through New Hampshire Hospital if the facilities have a question about the residents that they've taken. The nursing homes are surveyed on psychotropic medications every year, if not more often. Most facilities are accustomed and are required to provide behavioral health and psychiatric care to the residents of their facility. Depression, anxiety amongst the elderly is not that uncommon. I think that with some of these residents that we transferred, there were some unique needs that we worked hand in hand with the facility to train their staff if that's required. And New Hampshire Hospital stands ready to go in and either do telehealth conferences or even additional training in those individual facilities to help better take care of those residents. It truly is a partnership and a collaborative effort between them and us.
Further discussion on these items? Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of items 8 and 9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 10 and 11 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Public Health Services.
So moved.
Any discussion? Councilor Stevens?
Just one change. It's actually Portsmouth is the headquarters for Crossroads. In the first paragraph.
on item 11. Yes.
Item 11, yes.
This is
In the
conference.
opening paragraph.
That is correct. Yes, yes, that should be correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Warren?
I just have a question about 11. So these services ended on June 30th of 2021. Are we continuing to provide these services? Is there going to be a separate contract coming forward for retroactive to July 1, or what's happening?
I'll have Patricia Tilley come down. A lot of our testing activities have ramped down because it's within healthcare systems right now, and our vaccination efforts are up, but I'll let Patricia speak more specifically.
Thank you. Patricia Tilley from the Division of Public Health Services. Thank you for that question. So we are, as the Commissioner noted, we have a number of opportunities for testing throughout the state right now within communities. This particular item simply addresses a gap moving backward, as you noted, that we had the philanthropic community provided lots of support, and there was just this one area where Crossroads noted that they needed additional support. We continue to stand at the ready to help them moving forward, but this is the request at this time.
Thank you.
Councilor Stevens?
In regards to the amount of homeless shelters you'll be serving, I believe there's 42 registered with the state. Would this contract cover all 42?
This contract, Crossroads worked as the facilitator for all of the homeless shelters, and again, it was looking backwards, and these were the ones that opted to participate.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 10 and 11, please signify by noting the change to the home base of Crossroads as Port but not Concord. All in favor of items 10 and 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 12 and 13 from the Department of Health and Human Services from New Hampshire Hospital.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Stevens?
Our nursing crisis is so relevant and it's so pronounced in this document. There's 100% vacancy at Glencliff for the second shift. We've got a crisis.
We do, statewide and in all sectors of healthcare. I think what you'll see coming from the department in the next month or so is a very comprehensive strategic contract to recruit workforce into the state. I think, one of the things that we've missed in prior attempts to do workforce recruitment is we recycle a lot of our staff, our healthcare workforce within the state. They move from one hospital to another hospital or one nursing home to the next nursing home. We really need to get new entrants into the workforce instead of recycling the current. So we are putting together a very comprehensive plan to do exactly that. Glencliff is uniquely in crisis because of their location. They're in the middle of nowhere, and they have a very, very hard time. This contract, this vendor, Maxim, has been very, very helpful with staffing the shifts that we need staffed at both Glencliff and New Hampshire Hospital.
Please.
Follow-up, please. Our nurses were not entitled to first responder stipends, is that correct?
I don't have that specific information with me. I don't think under the first
It was a separate nursing stipend aside from the first responder stipend as part of their contract.
Okay. Just some of the conversations I've had with nurses, they have not received any sort of bonus. They've had lunches, they've had dinners. So my question or recommendation is with premium pay coming into these municipalities as part of our local relief, it would be great to get the message out that, again, these funds can be used for private sector healthcare settings.
Yeah, I think, different areas of healthcare industry responded uniquely to their situation. I know that there were bonuses for nurses in long-term care settings. I know across the board there were some hospitals that took some of their federal dollars and created incentive programs for their nurses in their hospital. So I think every one of them did it a little bit differently, but I'll definitely look into what you're asking around incentives for nursing.
If I may, if there are specific institutions, let us know. Hospitals and hospital groups around the state, between the state funds that were separate from the incentives, but between the state and the federal funds, received an additional $250 million. And a lot of them turned that money, as they should have, into the incentives for their staff. So if there's a specific institution, let us know. But there was a lot of money out there.
There is.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Governor. I don't want you to get away, Commissioner, but I do have a question on a current topic that's very relevant to housing. Apparently, the federal law for the eviction moratorium for low and moderate income tenants is ended. How is that going to impact New Hampshire? I know the White House has weighed in with regards to providing regions that are COVID intensive, that the evictions moratorium might stay in place. But how is New Hampshire positioned to take on more homelessness potentially?
It's a very timely question, especially since our Council on Housing Stability just came out with a report, and Chris Santinello is really the lead on that, so I'm going to let her speak to it in greater detail, because she has the details.
Katie's up there also. She's my partner in crime on this. So we're not sure, so right now, actually, with the funds from the federal government, the emergency rental, the CAP agencies and New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority are really working hard to get a lot of dollars out, because our goal is to keep people in their homes. And then we actually are targeting use of some in the Council on Housing Stability to really look at how do we use and create more housing. Do we need more housing stock in the state? At the same time, we're looking at some of the different funds that will be coming in through HOME, which is another federal dollars, and working together with the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, because that allows shelters to receive funding for non-congregate shelter sites. So in some parts of the state, in the country, unused vacant buildings, hotels, motels can be turned into homeless shelters. And one of our thoughts is, if we take these federal dollars that are available to potentially renovate some of these into non-congregate shelters, and then when those dollars go away, if they're single units, we can then repurpose and use some of our permanent supportive housing dollars to keep people housed. So we have a really we have a great plan we're working on. We have a lot of people committed to it. I think you might have seen yesterday at Fiscal Committee, dollars were allocated to assist with this through Commissioner Caswell and Gopher to really take the Council on Housing Stability report and really put it into action, and really work with our local communities on regulations that prohibit housing development.
So with all of that action planning going on, is there a sense of what the homelessness increase might be potentially in the short term as we work out long-term solutions? Because I'm hearing up north that there's more homelessness up there.
So we do regular counts. I don't have that handy with me right now, but we work really closely with the community providers to really help identify what are some local solutions to keep people housed, and working with city and town welfare associations and our CAP agencies. Everybody is working really collaboratively to try to gauge that. We do have an annual point-in-time count, and last year it was really hard because of COVID and the lack of volunteers out there getting the counts, but we're working really hard, and we're changing some of our dashboards so that we can really track the numbers better.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may, I'm going to add my 3 cents in. Just, first, the Council's Housing Stability report is tremendous, and it looks at a variety of 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, long-term type issues and solutions to provide. It really identifies everything from the Governor's office taking hold of this, the legislature taking hold of that, what we can do with executive order, what we can do legislatively, what requires funding. So I really want to commend them. There were a lot of folks that had a lot of input, and it really came out tremendously well. On the issue to the moratorium, the eviction moratorium that was just announced yesterday, I can say that I've asked Chief Justice Gordon MacDonald to look at how that might be applied here in New Hampshire communities, because there's a lot of metrics that are attached to that. So it isn't as blanket as a lot of folks looked at. It was pushed back by the courts nationally before, and so we just have to unpack a lot of that. And so I've really charged the Chief Justice with looking at that possibility. And on the fund, I just want to, again, encourage folks, if you need rental relief or utility relief or whatever it might be, the local CAP agencies, there's 5 of them across the state, are doing a tremendous job. We found out yesterday almost half the states in the country haven't released a single dollar of that money. We've been doing it for 3.5 months. And on average across the country, only about 10% of those dollars have been spent. We've doubled it. So we're still a long way to go, and it is a very cumbersome federal process. It is a very cumbersome application. It drives me crazy. But the team is really doing a great job, not just at the state level, but the CAP agencies. I really want to commend them. There's a lot of volunteers and a lot of time in those organizations. And again, we're kind of leading the country in the whole thing. But so a couple different pieces there in terms of how this new moratorium is going to apply to us and what communities it might apply to. The real number behind the homeless issue of COVID. If you looked at 2010 to 2019, the actual number of homeless individuals actually dropped. But 2020 and COVID may have really exacerbated that in getting that accurate data. We have a number for 2020, but we want to make sure it's accurate. So we're digging in. The real complication, I think the necessity of different wraparound services for those individuals has very much intensified and increased. So it's not just providing a home, it's making sure they have all the other additional supports, and I think the state is just much smarter about knowing what supports to provide and how. And that's where I think the real emphasis has to be provided. So again, I think the team's doing a great job. A lot of work to do on this, a ton of work. And thank you, Chris, because I know you have a 26-hour day job on trying to manage all of this.
Well, I want to compliment and commend the governor because you carried over, I think it was CARES funding in the amount of $50 million, correct? Additionally, Judge King is citing a figure of $200 million that's available. His goal is to prevent, a backlog in the circuit courts. So he is getting the word out within all of his circuit courts. So the message is no one should be going through an eviction, and this is a win-win for tenants and for landlords. The funds are there. It's 15 minutes to apply.
And I'm going to pile on that. This state has never seen judges. The judges themselves are stepping up like never before. They are part of the one-on-one solutions because, just to your point, they don't want that backlog in their court. And the judges are working directly with tenants and landlords to get them those funds, which I thought was totally amazing, and I can't thank them enough. They're really doing a great job. Yes, Councilor Katz.
Thank you, Governor. Once somebody gets brought up to date on their eviction, do they get another opportunity to not pay rent?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. I think the CAP agencies, it's pretty much, because it has to be COVID related. So, and I know they can actually pay some funds forward, so I don't have those details. I can reach out to Dean on that.
Can you get an answer on that, please?
Sure, I'll follow up with Dean at New Hampshire Housing and have him reach out to you.
Just to pile on again. I understand New Hampshire Legal Services has kind of reconstituted itself with another group. Is your agency working with them at all?
We are working with all the advocates proactively, and I know the CAP agencies and New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority are really managing this program, but I know they are working with everybody to streamline applications, to get people in, because nobody wants, like the governor said, people to face evictions. And at the same time, we have a lot of small landlords, and they need to get their resources to pay their bills. So everybody's working. I was actually on the phone on my way down here this morning with one of the CAP executive directors, Donnelly Lozo, and they are just working so hard to do outreach. They're sending letters to landlords. They're working with everybody. So even when we had the original eviction assistance, rental assistance program under CARES Act back in the fall, we worked really collaboratively with the legal assistants and attorneys.
Okay, thank you.
Additional, Councilwoman?
Another off-agenda topic, Commissioner. Our family planning services are continuing to provide services without a contract. Just wondering if you can give us an update on the timing of when we might expect to see those contracts.
We're anticipating those contracts to come in September.
We are doing abbreviated audits on 1 month's worth of detail for each of the organizations between now and the September date, so that by the time we bring the contracts forward, we will have an abbreviated audit on each organization.
Further discussion? Okay. All in favor of items 12 and 13, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 14 and 15 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Behavioral Health.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on items 14 or 15? Councilor Stevens?
In regards to item 15, there was one vendor that had requested advanced startup fees in the amount of $110,000, and I'm totally in support of this program, but I'm just curious what those funds would be used for. And that was the Chase Home.
I don't have that information. I'm looking for Joe. Do you know? Gotcha. I'm just coming there to answer that question.
I'm coming down, not necessarily answering the question. So, good morning. I'm Katya Fox. I'm the director of the Division for Behavioral Health. I do not have the specifics. As you know, there are a total of 16 contracts. You've seen 9. You have 5 here. You have 2 more to come. And for that particular $110,000, I'm sorry, I did not prep for that for this morning, but I can get that information to you about what they're going to use those funds for. Many times, if it's that amount of money, it's for a small renovation.
Thank you so much.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 14 and 15, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 15A from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Children, Youth, and Families.
So moved.
Any discussion? Councilor Stevens.
I'm noting that they're asking for an advance payment of $480,000. Additionally, this program claims to last 3 to 5 months, and services are available 24/7. And by reading this contract, I'm not sure if these services are inpatient, outpatient. MST, are they providing the staff? This vendor is not registered within the state of New Hampshire. And when reading the CVs of their leadership, there's a push on generating revenues, development of database prospects, and I only see one behavioralist, and that's a holistic counselor. So I guess, where are these MST providers coming from?
Good morning, Joe Robeson, Director, DCYF. Good to see everybody. Multisystemic therapy is an evidence-based model designed to meet the needs of particularly intensive, high-need youth who are at high risk of entering out of care. DCYF has been going through a process for a couple of years now to revamp our entire service array, aligned with a piece of federal legislation called the Family First Preventative Services Act. There are a handful of evidence-based models that are approved by the Family First Preventative Services Act. Multisystemic therapy is one of them. The benefit for us using one of those models is, one, they work because they're evidence-based, there's a lot of research behind them, but two, they're then eligible for partial federal reimbursement. So you have to choose a model that's on the clearinghouse. It is an outpatient service, so they go into the home. They're typically early on in the stay, early on in the service, going out on a daily basis to work with folks. As the program moves along, it tends to titrate down, so it's not quite so frequent. In terms of the advanced payment, the way that this service is going to get billed is almost every DCYF service it's a daily rate for the time that you're actually spent working with the clients. When you're building a brand new service like this is, and we had to do this with community-based voluntary services back in November as well, the program needs time to hire staff, train staff, and do those things before they're going to actually service clients. So the bulk of the advanced payments for the purpose of supporting that stand-up, and then once they're serving clients, they're then drawing the revenue based on the actual services that they provide. So At the end of the day, the advance payment might not be the total amount. There's language in the RFP, or not in the RFP, in the contract to require them to report out what their spending is, for us to check on what the spending is for those purposes, and to recoup whatever's not actually needed for the purpose of standing up the program for the first few months. This was a competitive bid. 4 bidders. This bidder was from Connecticut. They received by far the highest score. They have experience using this program in Connecticut, standing it up brand new. I can't remember the state, somewhere in the Midwest though, might have been Nebraska or Kansas, but highly recommended in providing this service, a lot of experience providing this specific service. They also worked in New Jersey back when I was there, not providing this service, providing other services. Very reputable provider. The other 3 providers, I think 2, maybe all 3 of them are actually also from elsewhere in New England. Youth Village, I think, is headquartered in Tennessee, but they have their New England regional office in Massachusetts. Beckett, I think, is New Hampshire based, although they also serve all of northern New England. And there was one other bidder, Northeast Family Services, who I think is also from Massachusetts. But at the end of the day, the services are provided in New Hampshire to New Hampshire kids, to New Hampshire families.
So what behavioral group is qualified to offer this service, and where are we drawing from? Are we drawing from marriage and family therapy, psychologists? I'm not certain.
Yeah, they have to be licensed clinicians. The supervisory level has to be master's prepared. The actual clinical level has to be bachelor prepared licensed clinicians. So sometimes social work, sometimes other backgrounds.
Thank you.
Councilor Gadsden.
Thank you, Governor. Did the other 4 folks that bid on this contract ask for upfront fees?
I believe all of them did, yes, because for all of them, they would have been building up a brand new service and would have to hire and train staff before they could do a daily rate.
So we're giving somebody an $11 million contract, and we got to give them upfront fees? I mean, in the private sector, that's never heard of.
The reality of social services is such that these providers typically aren't able to invest a ton of money up front. That's just not the reality of social services anywhere. If you want people to stand up something brand new and they're going to put out an expense, they expect to be covered for that. The way that, a different way, I guess, that you can structure this is you increase your daily rate to cover the cost, but at the end of the day, anybody providing a service wants to get paid for the cost of the service that they're providing.
It's an $11 million contract. I find it almost impossible to believe that somebody doesn't have enough in their working capital to put up $500,000 to do the next venture that they're looking at. Doesn't make any sense.
All I can tell you is that my experience standing up social services across multiple jurisdictions over a decade, this is common practice.
Maybe we should change it. Maybe we should change it.
And I think the unfortunate reality of doing that is we'll be left without being able to provide the services that we need to the kids and families. We have not had the ability to advance the service in the state for over a decade before I came here to start doing this work. And if we stop doing this work now because of insistence upon something like this, it's going to prevent us from actually doing what needs to be done to keep our kids safe. We're going to end up having more kids at SYSC, more kids in the residential programs that don't need to be there. This is the service that's intended to stop those exact problems.
Has anybody asked them if they could do the service without prepayment?
We negotiated with them about the rate. In fact, the rate for this service is less than the rate that they would be making through our standard ISO level of service if they were just to be a vendor Medicaid provider.
It's not my question. Did anybody ask them if they could do the service without a prepayment?
I did not ask them if they could do the service without a prepayment.
Can we get a letter from them that says they won't do the service without a prepayment?
I'm not sure.
In the item description, it said this is going to serve 1,000 kids. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And over what time period?
4 years.
4 years. So that's $100,000 per kid for this program?
The daily rate's about $90, so I'm not sure. I have to figure out what that turns into.
Well, you could take 10 million and divide it by 1,000. It just seems like an awful lot of money, $100,000 per kid.
And I would say it's less money than we would be paying to have these children in a residential program or at the Community Services Center.
Yeah. Governor, I'd like to move to table this item. I think we need a little more time to work on that. Sure, after a fall.
Okay, great. Councilor Stevens.
I appreciate all you're doing and your work. I know our kids have suffered so greatly throughout COVID with school closures, and I just want to make certain that we have the providers. This is following upon the state of New Hampshire, and I know that there's 5 segments in the state that will be hosting this service. On the seacoast, you'd be hard-pressed to find practitioners that are taking the patients. So that is my deepest concern, their ability to meet that requirement. But again, I applaud what you're doing. Thank you.
So just to address a couple of things, the $10 million for 1,000 kids is $10,000 a year, not $100,000. The cost to put a child at Sununu Center is probably closer to $100,000 a year. The policy initiatives in this state has been for years to move kids out of residential or the secure setting of SYSC and keep them in the community. In order to do this, we need to have comprehensive programs in the community to be able to keep them at a Sununu Center. This is by far a cheaper, more fiscally responsible contract to keep kids at SYSC than to put them in SYSC, which we are against collectively from a policy point of view, and it's more expensive. I'm not sure what further questions we have on this contract. When it comes to advance payment, we have sent the history of state government doing advance payments to contracts, not just with DHHS, with other departments too, in much more, a higher percentage than what this contract is, the advance payment to the contract. There's a long history of doing that in the state government, and if it is the want or will of the council to change that, I think that direction has to come out before we RFP contracts, because now we're in a position where we have bidded, we have gotten the bids from 4 different vendors, and we would have to go back and renegotiate or perhaps even re-RFP this contract to the bidders again.
I think this council has been pretty emphatic about prepayment of contracts. So if the department hasn't heard that, let me just reinstate it again. I'm opposed to prepayment of contracts when somebody's looking at an $11 million contract to do the work.
I've heard that from you, Councillor, for the last 2 or 3 meetings. I absolutely agree. A lot of these RFPs have been out for months, not weeks. So if it's the desire of the council to not do advance payment, then we need some direction from the governor's office and from the attorney general's office. But there is a long history. Like, I have heard your objection to DHHS doing advance payment, but there's a long history of other departments doing it also, for much more than what DHHS has done.
Well, if you can bring them up to me, I certainly will confront those agencies.
I don't have to bring them up to you, but I do have a copy of them for you.
Okay, thank you.
What you have in front of you is a spreadsheet with all of the contracts in the last couple of years that have had advance payments, the amount of the advance payment, and the ratio of advance payment to total price limitation of the contract. You will see that there are multiple agencies on here, not just DHHS.
Should have made the print a little bit smaller so it was easier to read. Can you make the print a little bigger and send it to me, please?
We could do a custom copy for you and send you something, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Further questions or discussion? Is Councilor, Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Governor. The last 2 years, I wasn't on the council, so, but prior to being on the council for 5 years, I don't remember seeing a lot of advance payments. And one of the practices that we're really trying to encourage here in the state of New Hampshire with our nonprofits who are receiving, state and federal funding is that they're solvent and they're well run. You've given me, an example of Community Solutions in Bloomfield, Connecticut is having a great reputation. I don't understand a group like that has a great reputation, that's got $11 million ask here today. Why can't they get a line of credit for $500,000 to pay their employees? Because in reality, we've asked the charitable trust director to scrutinize our nonprofits around the state because of what happened with Serenity in Manchester. And I have, a nonprofit in my area today that's under receivership, and it just seems like we support what you're doing and what you're attempting to do for the youth of our state, but at the same time, we got to, understand our fiscal responsibilities and our responsibility to the taxpayers at the same time taking care of the social services and obviously, the treatment for our youth in the state. So I'm in a dilemma, but I think if this council in the future is not going to support advance payment, I think it's clear that's been stated. We really need to understand where we're going with this. And if that means it has to be tweaked into the RFP, let's do it. But I don't remember seeing it, in the 5 years I was on the council prior to the last 2 years, advance payment here, there, and everywhere. I think we need to get back to these nonprofits that are getting $11 million contracts, can't they go out and get a line of credit for that first month to pay their employees for the services that they're providing to the state of New Hampshire?
Where did this list, who made this list? Hi.
Hi, Nathan White, Department of Health and Human Services, Director of Contracts.
Great. So on these other contracts, there are other contracts from other departments here?
Yeah, there's 5 state agencies there. I think there's 39 total. We had put together that list back in mid-June, so that was a representation at that point in time.
Okay. So is this, I'm just trying to figure, is this a comprehensive list? Is this all the contracts over the last couple of years that have had advance payment in the state?
Correct, yep. That's a review of calendar years 2019, 2020, and up to 2021 through June at that point.
Okay. It represents about less than 1% of all contracts we've approved since 2019. This is not an abusive process. I don't like handing out money up front either, but I'll tell you, if one of the most important initiatives of child protection in this is the process, and we risk losing new vendors coming into the state, that's a mistake. If it were an abused process, I think I would agree with the council, but I got to push back a little bit and say, this isn't some sort of abuse process. Over the last 2 years, less than 1%, if this is the total number, that represents far less than 1% of the contracts that this council approves. So, I would just tread with caution, because if anything this state has done terribly up until about 2016, 2017, was bringing new providers in. There were barriers constantly on behavioral health, on child welfare services, on SUD. It was internal politics that kept this state moving forward because nobody wanted to give up their fiefdom. That's exactly what this group here is breaking down, and exactly why, up and down the board, child protection, better than it's been in 30 years. SUD, better than in 40 years. Mental health, a more substantial movement in the past 2 months than we've had in the past 10 years. So I would really caution. I understand the process, and we don't want to hand out too much money too hard, too fast. I totally get that. But we have broken down silos that have existed for ages, and I'm scared to death of going backwards. I get it, I do. You know me, I'm a procedural guy. I'm very fiscally responsible. I never want to hand out anyone an extra dollar just to hand it out because it's a government contract. But I get nervous about this stuff. But I mean, you're the fives.
Can I ask the governor a question here? Because I understand your argument and your passion. We're all trying to get into the same direction here with supporting our youth services. But as I'm looking at these advance payments, many of them are small amounts compared to $500,000 with regards to this contract, with regards to an advance payment. Are you saying that if we support this contract, that here going forward, that in an RFP, that we should change advance payment, and that we should make it clear that we want to deal with organizations that are going to basically pay their own employees for the first month while they're being a part of a big contract here in the state of New Hampshire? Is that what we're saying?
I think what I'm saying is at the end of the day, we're likely going to pay more money because now we're paying the interest and the carrying and the risk cost of them going out. They can go get a line of credit, you're absolutely right. So now we're going to pay their interest too. So one way or the other, the cost is the cost. And it's either going to get built into a much higher rate plus interest, or we use our funds and pay a little bit up front, give them the security, knowing that the rest of the contract is backed by the full faith and credit of the New Hampshire government, and that's how we go forward. So it's a little bit pick your poison, and for me, for certain contracts, not all, of course, most, 99%, don't touch it, but for some contracts, if it means opening a door to a couple more organizations that have previously been kept out of here, I'm all for trying it, and I don't know, but I want you to understand, I totally understand, I get the argument, but I'm a little sensitive about these areas where we've come so far. I don't want to start pushing people out the door. That's all. But and could I ask one more question? I'm sorry. What happens? Because I know we're going to get to a potential tabling. What happens? I mean, can we table it just for a couple of weeks and get some more information? I don't imagine that would affect a 3 or 4 year contract, but I don't know.
I think if there's other information that will inform the vote, absolutely. But what I'm hearing is not that there's a question necessarily on the contract, it's on the principle of advance payment. And I don't know that I can rectify that in the next 7 to 14 days. I would have to rectify the advance payment, I would have to rebid the contract, and that will take several months. And just a word of caution on painting everything with the same brush. If we say no advance payments at all, right? We definitely have nonprofits in our state, specifically in the North Country, that at times, if they are going to stand up a program, they don't have the capital to invest up front. They're more than capable of providing the service, and often will ask for an advance payment or contemplate it when they're talking to the department. If we take it completely off the table, some of those very good local community nonprofits they're not going to be able to bid on some of our contracts.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Whitler is holding on to his tabling motion. I appreciate that, so everyone can get their comments. Councilor Kent.
Thank you, Governor. Did you see the date of this letter that we just received today?
July 2nd.
Why are we just receiving it today? Because it was addressed to you.
We sent it by email on July 2nd to all of you.
You've had it for a month. In your email, I don't know what to tell you.
We came prepared with copies today in case an email got lost, but we did send it to you back the first week of July.
If I received it, I would have called.
I don't know that.
So, Governor,
we can. Yes, Councilor.
So what I'm hearing from the commissioner is that if we don't support this contract, that she's going to have to put it out to bid again, and that there's no ability for her to go back to Community Solutions to try to renegotiate the advance payment. That's what I'm hearing. So I feel as though that the tabling motion is probably not in order. But I also think that we as a council would have to review our policy with regards to advance payment. If we're going to lose money and we're going to lose services to the young people that deserve therapy and counseling and treatment, that's not a good position to be in. So if I'm hearing it correctly, Commissioner, you're saying you can't really renegotiate this in the last 2 days.
Let me bring my contract person up that knows the law better than I do.
we posted the RFP and included in there. We have both the technical and the cost portion that we have to evaluate. This particular RFP, we explicitly drew out advanced payments, and that factored into the final scoring. So I would eventually have to defer to the Attorney General's office on that question, but I don't think, just as a gut sort of take on this, I don't think we could initially go back and negotiate with this vendor. I think we probably have to cancel the procurement and go back out to bid.
And they may still bid, right? I mean, it's possible that they all still bid and just move rates or whatever. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say that none of them are going to bid again. They could. Yes, that's the risk. And the time delays. That would just be the end.
Even if we pay carrying charges, Governor, at 1.5%? Who knows?
I don't know. I think the point is
It's only $1.5 million on an $11 million contract.
Okay, well, you want to add the time delay and all that. That's
Question?
Yeah.
How many other advance payment RFPs are out there right now, and for how much money?
I would have to go back and review our site. We have several dozen at any point in time.
Several dozen advance payment contracts are out there?
Several dozen requests for proposals, requests for applications, requests for bids.
Yeah, but how many have advance payments included in the RFP?
I'd have to go back and verify.
1, 2, some, none?
I'd have to go back and verify. I don't want to guess.
Okay, Councilor Stevens.
In the contract, it states that they do not have a certificate, but there is a certificate here, so they are registered with the state. That happened on July 16th. So somewhere in the contract, that should probably be corrected.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so table motion?
Move to table.
Move to table.
Second.
Second. All in favor of tabling item 15A, please signify, 15A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the item is tabled. Okay. Okay, thank you guys. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 16 through 33, big bunch, from our friends at the Department of Transportation.
Oh, do we have that information right away from the department on how many contacts are out there?
Yeah, Commissioner Shibinette and the team at HHS can see like how many are hanging out there potentially with upfront payments. As soon as possible. So items 16 through 33 from DOT. Can I get a motion to adopt these items?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Holmes. We'll give everyone a great shuffling. All of HHS. I can't see. Do we have folks here from DOT? Oh, hi. Why don't you guys come on up? We have a couple questions. If you guys could just state your name for the...
Sure. Good morning, Governor, members of the Executive
And
Council.
I apologize, if the closer you can gather around the mic, that would be great.
Absolutely. Whoop. Yeah, I'm breaking the equipment. Good morning, Governor, members of the Executive Council. I'm Patrick Hurley. I'm the Director of Aeronautics Rail and Transit at DOT. The Commissioner and the Assistant Commissioner, unfortunately, are out of state today.
And Peter Standis, Director of Project Development for DOT.
Thank you. My question is a general question. I was in Ashworth yesterday and visiting and looking at the flood damage. The towns up there are very, the damage is really significant, and they're very concerned about the cost. They're very concerned about the timing on getting the federal declaration, if there's going to be one. And really, the really most fundamental question is there any, and I want to say this, they're very happy with what DOT's been doing for them. They're very grateful. But is there anything we can do to speed up the funding and help these cities and towns that may not have the funding to repair these roads?
I know that our Director of Operations, Dave Rodriguez, has been communicating with a number of communities in the region who have experienced significant damage on the roads, and we are helping, DOT is helping where we can. When we can provide that assistance, we are. And it's been, for the last number of days, there's been numbers of phone calls and numbers of deliveries and calls for materials to try to assist. We are also dealing with a few of our own state roads that have been impacted as a result of the rain events that we've had, and we're working through those issues also.
And if I could note, I've asked Jen Harper, who runs our emergency operations and management team, who's one of the central coordinators, and really handles a lot of FEMA reimbursement. So I don't know if Jennifer wants to add anything in here in terms of timing, FEMA reimbursement dollars that might be available to the
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Jen Harper, Director for Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So, I know you and I chatted on the phone earlier this week, and I've talked to a lot of senators, the governor's office, representatives, community officials that have been impacted from the floods from July 18th, July 29th, and again on August 1st. So just to bring you up to speed really quickly on what the process is we are kicking off today with FEMA here in Keene, Jeffrey and Ringe, and we have a list to go out for the rest of the week with FEMA. And my team meet with all the officials that have been impacted by the storm of July 18th. We'll start there first. It is a process. We work with the towns immediately after a flooding event or any other disaster event. We have to meet a threshold from FEMA. That amount is $2,040,529. Then each county has to meet a threshold based on population. For Cheshire County, that amount is about $300,000. They met that. We met the state threshold for July 18th, so we're here today starting that process with FEMA to validate those damages so that we can submit a letter to the President asking for disaster dollars to come into the state. It is a long process. I will tell you, if we get a letter to the President by the end of this month, we likely, I don't know their schedule, but based on COVID that FEMA is dealing with, as well as all the other disasters that are affecting the United States. So it goes to wildfires, tornadoes, etc. We get into that queue. The President will hopefully approve that July 18th flooding disaster, maybe by October 1st. To set expectations, we should not expect, if we get that designation, monies to be in New Hampshire until the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year. It is a long process. So if we skip to July 29 storm, we have to go through that process all over again. Get the initial information from the communities, get to that $2 million mark, which, as you saw at Ackworth, and I've seen video, and I want to go up there today, that is severely devastated. That will be more than $2 million. So we'll go through that same process again, ask for a declaration from the President, get money in. Again, you're looking at the beginning of next year. So like my friends from DOT, as well as DNCR, we're working with state agencies, because it's not just communities that got impacted. DOT, DNCR also got impacted. So we're going to work as a team to get those designations. There is no advancement. I kind of joked with you the other night, FEMA doesn't come in with a big bag of money that I would love to give to the town of Ackworth right now. They desperately need that money, as do the other communities that have been impacted, but the process just doesn't work that way.
I mean, I think the amount of damage that we saw, I estimate to well over $10 million. In 25% of that even is not money that these small communities have.
Right, so that's a really important thing to know, Counselor, that when FEMA monies are designated, hopefully, it is a cost share. 75% FEMA will provide, the 25% the towns and state agencies will have to come up with that 25%. So that is an important factor.
Councilor Kenny.
Thank you. So I think Council Warmington and I did a tour because we both share Sullivan County, so we did our prospective tours. And Ackworth's never seen an executive council, and they saw it too, for these days. So And having traveled those roads, I ditto everything that Councilor Wormington has just stated. My concern with FEMA is that we're a cold weather state, and when someone, in the south gets hit with a disaster, they can pull out the backhoes, they can pull out the equipment, and start right away working on it once they get their money. But in Ackworth, they're not going to be able to work on some of that in the winter when they get some money. So that's one concern. The second concern that I have is, or maybe it's just to ask about your experience in dealing with FEMA and the release of money. What does a small town, because I represent 108 small towns, that's devastated, from your experience, what are their options in the short term? Displacement of homes if they can't go back to their homes, shut down of roads, or they have to detour, or what is it that potentially, or what has happened in the past with small towns that have gotten hit hard, what has been the options in the short term, and are we just looking at staying in place for the next 3 to 4 months, or how do we look at a small town that's desperately in need?
So, like my friends at DOT said, they've been out there, they've been helping the locals to, make some temporary repairs. I talked to Dave Rodriguez several times over the past week or so, and he concurred that some of these roads will not be able to be open, and the work will not be able to be done because of the time of when the FEMA dollars come in. The community, so you probably remember the July flooding 2019 up in Grafton County. That was, significant. They're still working on that. When there's a disaster, most of us see the sun come back out the next day and think things are good. We have 5 legacy disasters from 2019 and backwards that we're still working with communities. It is a very long process to repair roads and infrastructure. I don't have an answer. The communities are incredibly resourceful, working with our DOT and trying to do temporary repairs in the season that doesn't include winter here in New Hampshire, to make those temporary repairs. I know the communities up in Grafton County that you're familiar with have done an incredible job in the past 2 years, and they're still working on some of those projects. So I don't have the answer. I only know that our communities are very resilient and do come up with innovative and creative ideas, working with DOT and trying to get some of those things fixed. It crosses the economic piece. I know I've talked to Commissioner Caswell about the economic piece and Small Business Administration coming into the state once a disaster is declared, so that businesses can, get small interest loans from SBA when we get that declaration. So I don't have an exact answer. Resiliency.
Okay.
Further discussion, Councilor Yatzis.
This is not the first time we've had this problem, obviously, with the flood we had in Alston. I don't know if we advance some of those communities money to do the work and then get reimbursed from FEMA. But I can tell you that I can remember that very, very clearly. Because Alston was just about wiped out.
There is, and I'm sorry, I have to put my readers on, 21P37C, there's an exceptional disaster relief loan, so that communities can, the state will front the money to a community. If we get that disaster, then the eligible items that FEMA will pay, the state will keep that money, and then the town will only have to pay back that 25%. So there is this disaster relief loan on the books that is brand new, effective July 14, 2018. So it's brand new. We have not done it before. This might be the first time that we have to do that, sir.
I think we did it some other way, but we kind of did the same thing back then. So if we could just find a way to help these communities, because I know when they're hurting, they're hurting.
They are. I think that it's a pretty simple process, is my understanding, on our general team. I have to say, all of the emergency management directors at the local level are really good. I mean, even the small towns have really good individuals and we've been working with them so they understand that process and they want to take advantage and then basically. It's not, is it interest-free or virtually interest-free? Basically funding.
There is interest on it. The interest rate is assessed no greater than the prevailing rate at which the state treasury is available to invest.
Right. So we basically, we do it through municipal bond bank, essentially pass on. So yeah, we can, there is a opportunity.
It's so cheap.
3 minutes.
It's kind of like not having to worry about front
There you go. Councilor?
Thank you very much. We will be in touch. I'll stay in touch with the towns. I do have just a comment about item 33, since we are in Keene. This is to repair the taxiways and do work on the taxiways at the airport and the Dylan Hopkins Airport in Keene. So if approved today, that project will be going forward. And I note that the city of Keene will be responsible. This is a total project cost of $1.6 million, and the city of Keene will be responsible for paying the remaining $1 that's not covered by the FAA funding.
That's our federal government at work.
Further discussion? Councilor Gatsis, and then I'll go to
Number 19. I assume that's dealing with 4A.
There are a few payments for Exit 4A. Yes, sir.
Is there any way we can list all the payments that have been made, even the ones that don't have to come to the council? As I understand, there are some payments that don't come before the council are okay.
I think all payments come before the council at various times as they come up during the process.
Governor, I have a special request. See if we could vote on item number 16 separately and to divide the question. The question would be to accept the report. I mean, part A, and part B of the question would be to give permission for them to pay the bills first and then come here.
I'm going to look to the Attorney General a little bit in terms of whether we can divide the question. I'll have the Attorney General take a look to see if we can legally do that, and so we're happy to do so. Councilor, I'm going to move to Councilor Stevens if I could.
So, in regards to item 33, in October of 19, the lighting design plan was done, and I guess this had to be bifurcated, split into two projects.
Yes.
But that was done, and it had to be re-engineered and rebid, correct?
That's correct. Re-engineering by breaking out certain pieces of the project.
So what was the total cost? What was the initial cost expected to be, and what was the final cost?
The final cost of the engineering or the project?
The design.
The design?
Yeah.
Hang on for a second. The total engineering fees for the total project is going to be $216,000 for phase 1 and phase 2.
Okay, and
So this is 95. I think it's 95,000 in this for phase 1. It's 95,000 for phase 95,000 for the engineering fees and 121 for the resident engineer.
okay. But we also, did we lose to that? There's a shelf life of the plan. So that October of 19, that plan, did that become obsolete?
No, it does not.
Okay.
No, but it was designed for the entire project.
Okay.
And the FAA at the time didn't have the sufficient funding because we're in a discretionary environment. We have to, compete for this funding.
It was rebid then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to ask the Attorney General to come up and talk about item 16.
Councilor, would you mind repeating your request?
Yeah, to divide the question, I see the first half of the question as being accepting and place on file the report.
Yep.
And the second half of the question being saying, okay, you can do it that way next year.
I think the second half.
Yeah. In other words, you can pay the bill before you ask the council if and just accept a report. Follow?
So I see it as two actions. One is to accept the report and one is to pay the claims retroactively. Do you think they're
correct? But retroactively, looking at the dates, that's for next year, if I understand the title correctly.
I think it's
I don't think it's for next year. I think it's for this fiscal year that runs through next year, but the claims, I think the money's already been paid out, so this isn't retroactive.
But wouldn't claims just, this is questions for the department, I guess, wouldn't the claims still be coming in, next month, the month after? I mean, maybe there were a few that came in, over the last month.
Yeah.
And my objective is to ask that they come to the council first, and then we pay the bills.
Yes.
Especially since we have a consent calendar now, and these could be put on a little more often.
Yep.
So that's where I'm going with this, so you understand why I want to divide the question. I want to say yes to the report, and I personally, I don't know how the other councilors feel, but I would like the items to come here first.
Yep.
For approval before we pay the bills.
Okay, I think I understand your
Instead of
question.
just getting a report that says, oh, by the way, we paid this bill.
Yep. Yes, so I think that you can accept the report, which is action 1. Action 2 is only giving approval to these specific claims, and I think you could approve those retroactively, but note that in the future you want the department to come to you first before anything's paid. I don't think by approving action 2 here, you're approving them to do this in the future. It's only for these specific claims. But I think if your goal is to put the department on notice that you don't want these to be paid out in the future and have retroactive approval, I think that would be how you would approach it.
Can we take the item 2 separate votes?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if that's the case, I don't think we need to.
Oh, okay, yeah. Further discussion? Councilor Stevens?
Attorney General. Agenda item 26 is a boat lease agreement, dock lease agreement, and this was for 16 years, which is atypically long. Additionally, it was last approved in 2004, and they're signing off on their certificate of vote for 6/22/21. But the meeting was held in 2009. Is that still a valid certificate of vote?
I would need to review the item. I apologize, Council.
Is this the court vote you're talking about, the Council on Resources and Development?
This is 26.
Yeah. So we were told, we ran that by the Attorney General's office to make sure we only needed one court vote in order to lease the property. But then we go to long range every time we renegotiate the lease, because it has a different lease payment to it, because it's based on factors today. So we ran that by the Attorney General's office, but they can run it by it again. But they said we only needed the one court approval.
Thank you. In 16 years, that's it's typical to see this through DES. Why was it allowed to go on for 16 years?
To what could go on for 16 years?
They had the lease for 16 years before they had to renew it. It was last approved in 2004.
No, the court approval was 2004. I think the last, let me look at 26 real quick. The last lease was from 2004 to June 30th of 2020. So yeah, 16 years. I think there were probably, that wasn't one lease, that was renewed over time as well. They typically usually 10-year leases, but if there's change in ownership of the property, then we have to negotiate another lease to go towards that, to the end of that time frame.
Okay, thank you.
If I could follow up on the theme of 16, Governor, the paying the bills first, is that a MOP item, Manual of Procedures item? Why it doesn't come to council first? And the same question for 19 and 22. And then on 23 and 24, you've chosen to handle that separately. You got one item to accept the report, and the second item to say we can do it again next year. So why are they handled different, and where is the authority to pay the bills first before coming to council?
Counselor, we have talked about making all of these very in a similar fashion. So number 19, where is coming to you for approval prior to payment, whereas the other items, we requested authority to pay in advance. We've talked about trying to make those consistent, again, to make it easier to process these. We haven't done that yet.
For follow-up, consistent in what way? Pay them first and then come to us, or
getting approval, receiving authority to pay, those costs in many of these $25 fees for rare species review. We do this on a regular basis, and to come, in this particular instance, to the council every single time we do one of these seems burdensome, and so this has worked in the past for us, we would like to bring the contemplated awards from right-of-way payments into line with some of these other items, if you would allow that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you want to pay the bill first, then come here? But get the authority to pay the bill first.
That's correct. It seems that we're here pretty much every meeting with these contemplated awards, with the amount of properties that we do make acquisitions on. It does take a while to compensate the landowners for the acquisitions and the impacts to their properties as part of the project work. And this is just a means to try to expedite the payment to property owners.
So, follow-up question then, would you disagree with the Attorney General that for number 16?
No. Never, right? I will correct my previous comment. And I apologize, I just was reading this down. I think they listed the specific payments as examples of past payments they have paid, but they are requesting authority to do this for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
So I think
we'll want to divide.
Okay. Yeah, so you will want to divide the question.
I apologize. I know this is going on. I'm going to have to call for a 5-minute break. I have an issue that's governed that I can't handle. So let's just take 5 minutes.
Albert leasing for the Portsmouth facility. They truly stepped up during the pandemic in Dover with our National Guard. They're just exemplary business leaders, and they run both of those facilities. They're pristine. It's just absolute perfection, so I applaud you.
Thank you. I can't agree with you more.
Jalbert's do a great job.
Yes, absolutely. He's one of our, he's a great partner with us.
Well done.
With that, could I ask the Attorney General, let's just go back to 16 one more time and just make sure that we're all clear about, it sounds like we may want to break the item up just for clarity, and maybe just make sure what those two questions of breakup would be.
Yep. So last year on September 11th, 2020, the council gave DOT the authority to make these payments without coming forward. Item 1 is the council's approval of the report of the payments that were made under that authority for last fiscal year 2021. Item 2 is a request for permission to make these payments this current fiscal year 2022. The reason that item is retroactive is because we're after the start of the fiscal year. So it would be going back to July 1 of 21. So I think you will want to divide those two questions. Question 1 is whether to approve the report of the payments made under your approval from last year, not yours for previous councils. And item 2 is whether to approve doing this for the next fiscal year, or question 2. But you would ask, Councilor, where did that authority come from? They had authority last fiscal year because the council gave it to them last fiscal year.
Okay. Councilor Mormon.
So is this all of the claims that were paid for the entire fiscal year?
That's what it purports to be, so I would believe so.
So this is very small dollar. And they can't be more than $2,000. Okay.
you. Further discussion for items from the Department of Transportation. Commissioner, Mr. Dews, you have a discussion? I'll let her know. Okay.
Oh, I will.
So the first thing I'm going to do is ask for, seeing there's no further discussion, all in favor of items 17 through 33, and we'll come back to 16 in a moment, but items 17 through 33, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No on 24?
No on 24. Okay. So seeing that, those items are approved. Now I'm going to ask for an approval on the first part, we'll call it Part 1 of item 16, as it pertains to the approval of the report. All in favor of Part 1 of item 16 to approve the report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So Part 1 of item 16 is approved. I now ask for a vote. All in favor of Part 2 of item 16 as it pertains to continuing with the retroactive payment and continuing on for the next fiscal year. All in favor of Part 2 of item 16, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So noting that Part 2 of item 16 fails.
Governor?
Yes, sir.
Can I move reconsideration on item 24, please?
Sure.
I think it just might...
Okay, so we have a motion to reconsider item 24. Is there a second to reconsider?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of reconsidering item 24, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 24 is back on the table for further discussion. Councilor Wheeler?
Governor, it'd be the same principle as what we just did with item 16. If we do not approve item 24, then they will have to bring the items to the council before payment. And so I would ask my fellow councilors to vote no on item 24.
Okay. Right, we don't have to split it up. It's just a single item.
They split it up themselves.
Yep, discussion, please, Councilor Warner.
I just wonder if, before we vote no, I think I would like to know more about this, and I think maybe if we could table this till the next meeting and then vote on it, just so I wouldn't want to vote without having more information.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to table and a second. All in favor of tabling item 24, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 24 is now tabled. Yeah. Get you some of that white out. Okay, so that does conclude the items from the Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. Moving on, I'd ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 33A and 33B from the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery. Any discussion? Councilor Gatsas.
Governor, this Love Bus Tour, seeing that it's under your Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery, I just want to know, where's this Love Bus Tour going?
All over the state, is my understanding. I believe this is the Choose Love program that is going to be, maybe Taylor?
Sure. For the record, Taylor Caswell, Executive Director of Gopher. The Choose Love Bus Tour program is an extension of the Choose Love program that has been in operation for some time here in New Hampshire, really focused on the mental well-being of children. The bus tour would allow, with this funding, would allow that program to go to 9 different locations around the state and provide those services on site, particularly in light of the COVID situation that many schools and children have been experiencing.
Are the locations, are the stops listed in there in the contract?
I think they've identified some key locations, but there are others that have not been yet totally determined.
So,
I'm sorry. I apologize, Councilor Kenny. Only because Councilor Warner. Sure. Okay, Councilor Kenny, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Councilor.
So I'm looking at this commission, says for homes, communities, and workplaces as well. I'm a little bit hesitant to support this because I don't know if it's going to the North Country, and I'd be very curious to know exactly where it's going so I can support it. So
I think there is a guarantee of at least 1 stop in every executive council district. That is guaranteed. There's only 9 stops, so I can't guarantee you 2.
Yeah, but
Are you going to drive the bus?
I'll be there, at least a couple. I'm working on my CDL.
Well,
One of the locations will definitely be in the North Country, I think is identified in their proposal. There are a number of regions that, I think the Lakes region is another one where they have not yet identified an actual location. But we will hold them to making sure that they spend some time in the North Country.
So I have 3 regions in my district, and it's the...
Any opposed? Those items are now approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 42, 43, and 43A for the Department of Energy. Any discussion? Councilor Gatzis.
Thank you, Governor. Just a general question. 43A, that's energy that's coming in from Maine. Is that correct?
Good afternoon, Governor, Councilors. Jared Chicoine, Interim Commissioner of the Department of Energy. We're probably many years away from wind turbines being built in the Gulf of Maine. Where that energy comes into the grid, where that transmission connects, we don't know at this point. All those issues are still being studied. But the turbines, the lease areas, is a federal process. The lease areas are determined by the Federal Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Those areas have been determined. They're going to have an auction. But again, I think we're a number of years away from that energy actually happening and being produced in the Gulf of Maine.
Maybe a few. I'd say a few years.
A few years. It could be...
Sooner the better.
Sure about that.
And there could be turbines on the coast of New Hampshire.
I would not anticipate that we'd see them from the coast of New Hampshire. It'd be in federal waters, not in state waters.
Okay, but my biggest concern is that the energy coming in probably is going to come into Seabrook because they're all wired. I would hope that we could find a way to retain the energy for New Hampshire consumption. Because the biggest mistake we ever made with Seabrook is we allowed them to sell it, but we allowed them for all the power to leave the state. And we would have had the lowest rates in the country if we'd have kept some of that power right here in the state. So I don't know if that's something that goes through the process legislatively, but somebody should be talking about it now.
It is being discussed. There is an offshore wind study commission that was created by law that the governor signed into law last, I want to say in 20, so it was last year. And that commission is meeting, and these are issues that we're discussing. Actually, at the meeting this next week, there will be a presentation by a member of our staff at the Department of Energy on the transmission aspects of the future of offshore wind for New England. So we are looking at all those aspects.
And ultimately, that power purchase agreement, which is a great idea, would come through, I think, likely even the council. Probably the executive council process. We're years
Yeah, but
away.
we can't change anything. We can say, okay, we'll approve this contract, but 30% of the power is going to stay here in New Hampshire. And it's going to come to us that way.
And the state would have to, we would have to have a policy of one that would be supportive of procuring that power from the Gulf of Maine. We would need to procure that power. We'd have to contract for that power.
Still a few years away.
It is.
Not a number, a few.
Related question to an earlier subject. We were given a list of departments who made advance payments to agencies or providers, and the Office of Strategic Initiatives has over half of those items. Do you recall what they were and why?
We do make advance payments to the community action agencies for the fuel assistance program, federal fuel assistance program. Yes, yes, sir. And I have not seen that list. I will take a look and confirm, but I'm mostly certain here that it would be fuel assistance. We do advance payments to those agencies so that they can get those funds out to fuel oil dealers to pay the bills of the applicants.
Like when the cold snap hits.
Sure.
Yeah.
As we enter the program here, we make an advance payment to them.
Councilor Gatzis.
So those payments are made to the CAP agencies to help people in New Hampshire.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. They kind of left, so if you could send them a little memo but the question was asked of you and what you said.
We have Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Kevin. Agenda 43, quick question. Well, why is this not being funded by the Volkswagen settlement funds? Why is it 100% utility assessment?
Because it is part of a utility rate case, and the funds that Volkswagen, there are only certain things that we can use the Volkswagen settlement funds for.
Which is for electric vehicle charging, right?
We can, but we wouldn't fund a study, we wouldn't be allowed to fund a study like this with those funds. We can use it for building electric vehicle infrastructure, so charging stations.
Right.
We can use the funds for that purpose, but we would not be able to use it for this particular purpose.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion for the Department of Energy? Council Gatzis?
Governor, just so that we're clear, I don't know if there's any other agencies that we're going to see on a list that have done prepayments, but I don't know how we send the word out to all the departments that they should send us something if we've done prepayments with anybody, because it looks like the list that's here is over 15 of them are with the cap agencies out of the 39 that they gave us. So that's really disingenuous. I mean, you know, those prepayments weren't to a vendor that's doing work or anything else. It was for folks to get heat in their house. So I'm not happy with what we were told by the department on the letter of July 2nd, but they're not here any longer. They kind of left, or are they still here? Are they still here from there? No, mine says so.
We can put something out to all the department heads, looking at my team here, and we'll copy the council to go back and look over the last couple of years to see what contracts they may have put out. Further discussion for the Department of Energy? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of items 42 through 43A, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No on 43A.
And the no on 43A. The items are approved. Now ask for motion to adopt agenda items 44 through 45C for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Wheeler? Oh, Councilor Stevens. Well, let's start with you, Councilor Wheeler, and then we'll work. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just trying to get on the right page here. The issue or the question I have is with the contract to add personnel to review permit applications. And I want to know, I've been trying to get an answer for quite a while on why we can't get our permit to take out over $1 million worth of gravel that the town of Milford owns. And I know it's complicated. We put in the permit in 17, got sued, we lost in court. But what I particularly want to know in the permit process is how did the town of Milford get blackmailed to give up a conservation easement on 75 acres just to take out gravel we already own? And so I'm concerned about how the permit is working.
Correct. Okay. One of the things as the job fishing game, this is a DES permit, and we do a review for endangered and threatened species just for the animal side of stuff. So there are several species on site in Milford that are either endangered or threatened. And one of the things we have done in the past is negotiate, instead of just saying no to the project because the species are there, we try to negotiate an agreement where we feel that the species will be protected and will continue to thrive. And that's what we do with these types of review processes.
Do you know what those species are?
I know one's a turtle and one's a snake. I don't know their exact names off the top of my head.
And then you want $30,000 from the town of Milford to keep an eye on the turtles and snakes?
What we do is we sign a contract with the, actually Jared's division, and they actually go out, and they're the ones that do the inspection service on our easements.
Further question, Governor? Yeah, please. So is this 75-acre conservation easement, is that from Fish and Games? Is that Fish and Games idea and condition, or is that DES's idea and condition?
That would be Fish and Game. And one of the other issues that took place on that particular site is we would much prefer to have a third party take the easement instead of Fish and Game, and or be a holder on the easement, and we haven't, neither the town nor Fish and Game have been able to find anyone. And when I was talking to selectmen, they brought up this $30,000 question, so we tried to come up with some ideas on what might make that easement more attractive, because you do have a local conservation group right there that has easements or land that they own. I believe it abuts that property.
Okay, but I'm hesitant to give any more personnel and permits when we can't get this thing straightened out. And I'm very upset that you'd even want to blackmail the town of Milford with a 75, acre easement to allow them to remove their gravel. I'd like to see the statute A that allows you to do that and to know whether it's mandatory or not before we staff this office with any more personnel. Because if we're going to keep doing that, I certainly don't support it.
We are also in the process of writing new rules, and these staff will be crucial to be able to carry out the new rules that we will be having. Those will be coming out through GELCAR if this passes fairly soon.
Councilor Steve?
This relates to contract number 45 regarding the New Hampshire State Permit Bank. And my question is, there's a vessel enrollment, and then there is a category of qualifying vessels. And for the contract, our sector 25% of the vessels can be from either Massachusetts or Maine. What we have now is just about 11%, but I have 8 vessels that are qualified and waiting, and out-of-state boats. Are you
somewhat familiar with the process. I don't believe we select the boats. This goes to the fishermen form the sector themselves, is my understanding. And what we're doing here is we're transferring the ability to catch fish from us to the sector. They decide who's in and out, not us. Please.
Well, so they can go up to 25% within this sector of 11. But again, I've got 8 boats right along the seacoast, and out-of-state boats have that spot. And, how long is that going to be? I mean, I just have questions. Again, our fishermen were hit hard during COVID. I mean, they've got to make a living, and, consumption was down with restaurants closed. So, I would just like a little more information on how...
I'd be happy to. I think the best thing, why don't we set up a meeting date with my chief of Marine, and we will go through the process.
That'd be great. Thank you.
One further question?
Yeah, sure.
I forgot to ask. So when will a Milford permit be ready? It's been a 4-year process so far. We're in the 4th year.
Yeah. We met with the town a while back, and we gave some suggestions, and to the best of my knowledge, we have not gotten decisions back from the town yet. So my understanding is we're still waiting for the town to decide, whether they want some of the options that we put on the table for them.
That's not a lot of information, Governor. So I'm going to move to table 45A until I get an answer on this permit. It's been pulling.
Well, I can't tell you an exact date when we're going to be done, because I can't dictate to the town, when they're going to respond.
Look, I just need time to confirm the ball's even in their court.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. That would be item
45A.
It's A, right? Yeah. We have a motion to table item 45A. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling item 45A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Item 45A is tabled. Further discussion on the other items? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of items 44, 45, 45B, and 45C, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. 45A is tabled. Moving on, I'd ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 46 through 47D from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. There's also a tabled item, a formally tabled item that will take up. Any questions on these from BEA? Oh, I'm sorry, can I get a motion?
So
Thank you. Motion and a second. I apologize. Late night. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 46 through 47D, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Is there a motion to remove tabled item 31 for further discussion?
So second.
We have a motion second. All in favor of removing tabled item 31, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is removed. Can I get a motion to adopt formally tabled item 31?
Second.
Discussion?
Why did we table this? Just to refresh my memory.
We tabled this because it was a sole source contract, not labeled as a sole source contract. But it's not an issue with the department. The department was given instruction to recategorize things, not identify them as sole source. I don't think that this needs to get caught up in the crossfire.
Okay.
Councilor Jets.
I think we were trying to send a message on sole source contract.
Thanks for refreshing my memory.
Okay, all in favor of formally tabled item 31, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is now approved. So moving on, I'd ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 48 through 55 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.
So moved.
Second.
Please note that item 53 is not used. So we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion from Councilor Stevens? I think the Commissioner is joining us from row 1, seat 1.
Good afternoon. So agenda item 49, are we focusing on New Hampshire-based artists?
We always try to recruit as many New Hampshire-based artists to compete. As you've seen in the past, sometimes we attract interest of out-of-state artists, and they're all evaluated by a panel, and the goal is to continue to recruit new artists, emerging artists that are local to the project. The project that's in the queue for this item is the New Hampshire National Guard building, and I know that last week we provided a tour to all interested artists. I can follow up and let you know of how many artists came and how many were New Hampshire artists.
Thank you.
Councilor Wheeler?
Governor, I'd just add to that just having selected the artwork for the Milford Courthouse, we did select Gordon Carlisle, who's just over the border in Maine, and his work is phenomenal, far above some of the in-state artists. And they were good too. I'm not putting them down. I say that, but
Just lost some votes.
They were all busy. They were just so
They're
busy.
busy.
There was so much work. They were so busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Getz?
Thank you, Governor. Just a general comment. I just wanted to tell you and your department that they did a great job with the stairwells at Hampton Beach. People can now get down and get to the water without killing themselves on those rocks. So again, you did a great job, and people are applauding you for the effort that you put in.
thank you. We have a really amazing team at the Seacoast, and I'll make sure that the team hears that feedback. I appreciate it. If I could just let everybody here know that we do have several New Hampshire firefighters out west right now. 2 of them are our forest rangers, and we just drove a fire engine out to Montana, and it made it there okay. So we're rotating firefighters out west, so if you could just keep them in your thoughts, that'd be great.